What's good? What's good? I want to start this video expressing that I love everyone. I accept everyone. Other people, other organisms, the experience of the other is the purpose of life. So when I say this, that there is, in fact, a difference between men and women, I'm not trying to put one above the other, and I'm not trying to erode the validity of the trans experience. I think in an attempt to create dignity for the trans community, as well as an effort to subjugate the layman, the authoritarian left is pushing nonsense narratives, like the fact that there is no difference between men and women. And I think they are intentionally omitting nuanced portions of the conversation to accomplish this objective. Specifically, that biological sex and socially constructed gender are two different things. And it's so ironic because there's a lot of overlap in the community pushing this narrative with the community of people who say, "Don't you believe in science?" And it's like, yes. And science says XX and XY chromosomes will dictate your biological sex, notwithstanding the existence of hermaphroditic individuals, and not even beginning to get into the psychological components of the trans experience, but from a fundamental first principles scientific perspective. There are men and there are women, biologically. Now, psychologically and socially, we have a lot more room to express our existence within that spectrum. And so when people try to say there is no difference between men and women, they're being dishonest. Most of them know they are being dishonest. I believe they are trying to fight for what they believe is right, which is the idea of equality and dignity, which, yes, are valuable causes to fight for. But what they are doing in the process, they are silencing these conversations that will allow for a greater understanding to the atypical gender identity experience. I'm just so blown away by how crazy things are now and how divided people are. And these narratives are furthering the divide, and it's pushing people further left and further right. And I believe both sides are guilty of not wanting to compromise at all, because that compromise can be seen as a weakness or a vulnerability or an admission of some kind of bigotry or an admission of, if you compromise, you lose power. If you bend the knee to the other side, you can lose, or there's a perception of a loss of power. And the further people are driven apart, the more they want to retain their sense of power. If you are someone who thinks you're doing the morally right thing by educating the layman on the existence of socially constructed gender identity expression, that's awesome. That's good, because there is a lot of confusion around the trans experience and around the non-binary experience and around the experiences that are atypical manifestations of biological sex. Your biological sex can and often does inform your gender identity expression, but it is not a given. And so people on the right refuse to give up any ground on that idea because they believe then, well, let's not, the religious right is different. They're just a whole different sect of people that need to find Jesus. Because Jesus would love a trans person. Jesus loves everyone. And that's what they've lost along the way. But I think part of that loss is a result of the weaponization of narratives. This narrative being one of them. And so I'm a radical centrist trying to build bridges between these communities, and I think this is a conversation that needs to happen. I will happily talk with someone from the right about gender identity expression, but I'm not going to tell them that there's no difference between men and women, because there absolutely is. There are so many reasons, so many proofs we can provide, but we're fighting over these manufactured narratives instead of coming together as a community. Both sides are just getting angrier, and I don't want to say violent, but violence is on the horizon. We've started seeing trickles of it, but I think it's going to get worse. Hopefully not, knock on wood. Because once we can get past the superficial division narratives, we can really begin to build traction for unity. And this is one of them. I concede. I will. I'm not a person on the right or a person on the left, so I don't care. I'll concede that there is a difference between gender expression and biological sex. I don't fucking care how you decide to live your life, as long as you're not, and this is the libertarian roots in me, as long as you're not violating other people's space, if you're not violating other people's, if you're not aggressing on other people, I don't fucking care. I don't. I do believe, though, that men who transition to women shouldn't be competing against biological women, which is a contentious topic, but man, it's just like so wild. I did not expect to be here at this point in my life trying to talk about the fact that there's a difference between men and women. I'd rather just talk about the fact that we should be trying to make everybody's lives better in this country. But instead, we're just constantly fighting with each other over our grievances and competing with one another instead of collaborating with one another. That forced competition is exactly what the ruling class wants. I got love for everyone. I do. I don't care how you identify. As long as you don't hurt other people, that's fine. hope we can find some common ground on this issue, because I want the lives of trans people to be awesome. I want the lives of straight people to be awesome. I want the lives of gay people to be awesome. I want everybody's life to be as awesome as it can be. And this argument is so fucking stupid. It's so stupid. And I believe that most of the people perpetuating this nonsense are intentionally doing it on a malevolent level. It's a competition. It's like a left-right competition sort of thing. And any concession, any loss of ground is a loss that cannot be accepted from either direction. What can we do? What can we do? What do you believe? Do you believe that there is a difference between men and women? Do you believe this conversation is helping anyone? I think it's helping to radicalize a lot of people. But the nature of this conversation is not actually improving the lives of anyone. Trans people are just getting angrier and angrier. The people on the right are everybody's just angry and intellectually dishonest. And that's not true, not everybody, but there are pockets of people, specifically within the left and sort of the academic left, that are pushing this nonsense, the socially constructed reality, which is a conversation we can have, the subjective versus objective reality conversation. That's a fun conversation to have, because there are some deep roots there that transcend identity, all identities. It's the fundamental nature of reality that comes into question there. But how can we bridge this gap? Like, how can we have this conversation in a way where both sides feel heard and feel a desire to collaborate? Man, the religious right, they need to find Jesus, because they are hypocrites. They are. They don't love and tolerate as well as they could or should. But then also, so the left doesn't do so either. It's like one party claims to be morally superior from like this academic sort of background, while the other claims to be morally superior from a religious background. And it's like, you're both right and you're both wrong. But we need to stop fighting. We need to stop hating each other. So I've made a concession. Are you willing to make a concession? Let's have a conversation. Much love.